Hi everyone, Tim Kitzer with you, the voice of NBA Jam. From top journalists and authors to rising influencers and insiders, Hoopsology brings you the voices driving basketball forward. With lead guests and sharp analysis, Matt, Justin, and Alan keep you plugged into everything hoops. From downtown, boom shakalaka.
I want to give you guys a shout out. I hurt my arm. It was a snowstorm a couple of weeks ago. You guys held it down, so I appreciate you guys handling our previous episode of In the Lab. Also, a shout out to Tim Kitzrow, the voice of NBA Jam and several of your childhood favorite video games. He has voiced our intro and our outro, and he offered, and it's a pleasure just to have him do that. A legend in terms of this basketball culture. So truly appreciate him shout
out to Tim.
Yeah, totally.
That's awesome. That's like surreal to hear him saying our names in our podcast. That was just very cool. Thank you, Tim.
Yeah, absolutely. So you'll be hearing that on, I think, the current episodes of Hoopsology and in the future as well. Also, just some other housekeeping notes. Check out our archive for our previous interviews. We previously interviewed Tim Kitzrow. Previous interview God as well. He's the assistant coach for the Atlanta Magic. Recently put out a book. We interviewed Jake Udy. And we have several other interviews on our archive. So check that out on YouTube or where your favorite listen to on your favorite podcasting platforms, like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, etc. And then one more thing, please make sure you like and subscribe. I've noticed that a lot of you watching this video are not subscribed to our podcast. We focus on basketball culture. So we make sure that we, of course, cover the headlines like we're going to do right now, but also we talk to authors, influencers, dunkers, players, journalists that cover the game of hoops globally. So if you want that content, just hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. That truly helps us out. All right, enough of me yammering. Let's get into In the Lab. And before we jump into our Christmas Day preview, I want to get into LeBron James's comments on Christmas. So we've talked about this, fellas, about just the human element of athletes in terms of a lot of fans don't really appreciate what the sacrifices that athletes go through. And I think LeBron pointed this out in terms of him playing on Christmas, because correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, in terms of him being healthy, has he played on every Christmas Day game? Like, has he missed one?
I'd have to look that up. He's been there quite a bit.
Yeah,
I mean, I remember
consistently.
They had like Cleveland Golden State matchups, a lot of those Christmas Day games. He's been a big part of it.
Yeah. Alan, go ahead.
Yeah. He's been the biggest draw for ratings in the NBA for 2 decades. So my assumption is that his team has been scheduled to play Christmas Day no matter what.
Yeah, I agree. And to that point, he was asked this question by a reporter recently. He said, quote, "I'd rather be at home with my family, but I mean, it's a game. It's the game I love. It's the game I watched when I was a kid on Christmas Day. Watching a lot of the greatest play the game on Christmas. It's been an honor to play it. Obviously, I'm going to be completely honest. I'd rather be home on the couch with my family all throughout the day. But our number is called, so we have to go out and perform, and I look forward to it." So just your thoughts on this. It's kind of the human element of these guys playing on Christmas. Do you think the Christmas days are even necessary? Just because the NFL, they have the date now. They're on Netflix along with some other games. The NFL, I just keep it real, that they're more popular than the NBA. So at least in America, at this point, should the NBA just move to another date? What do you guys think? And what do you think of LeBron James's comments? Alan, I'll point it to you first.
Yeah. First, I want to put this in a little bit of perspective from a personal standpoint. So last year, there was a work emergency that started around December 9th at my job. And it was tough. Basically, I worked every day, had to set up an entirely new call center within like a few days to get running, and ended up working every day through, end of January with not a day off. Like weekends, holidays, I was putting in some time. Now, look, I am proud of the work that I did. It's definitely on my resume. It's like, it's a big deal. I'm proud of everything that my team accomplished to help out another organization. But it sucked missing family time, missing all that time on Christmas. Luckily I got to spend some time because I was home and working from home, but not being able to sit back and relax and just chill with the family, it sucked. I get where LeBron's coming from, and it's a totally human thing for him. it doesn't matter how much money he makes or anything like that. It's a family time. Justin, to kind of go to your question, uh, I don't know. Like for me, the Christmas Day games, I don't know. And Matt, maybe you're in the same boat I am. Ever since I've had kids, it's not a day that I sit down and just watch basketball. I don't have that luxury. It is a pure family day. I mean, I don't know. I spend a lot of time putting stuff together. So it's just not to me personally as a fan, it's just not a thing for me. I try to keep track as I can, but I'm not sitting down and watching the games. So if the NBA were to move off their Christmas Day schedule for whatever reason, I'm in favor of it. It doesn't affect me. So, I'm okay with it. And Matt, I'll turn it over to you, kind of what your thoughts are.
Yeah. So I would say these comments by LeBron are maybe the most relatable. Maybe it's the most relatable quote he's had in the past 5 years, maybe 10 years. I think Christmas is a huge deal. Just when looking particularly in America, I mean, even outside of religious practice, it's a big deal in America, one of the major holidays, no doubt. So for LeBron to say that he would prefer to spend time with his family, and for someone to criticize that, I just don't really understand the outrage. And if you listen to the quote itself, if you watch the video clip, you can see his tone is not any sort of complaining or whining type of tone. I think he comes off as, even grateful and sort of reverent for getting to participate in Christmas Day games. But I can't fault the man for saying that he would rather spend that time with his family, because that's a beautiful thing, and I'm fortunate to enjoy that just about every year. I think the Christmas Day games, both NFL and NBA, I see it as it's a good distraction, and it's a good comfort and some company, if you will, for those who maybe aren't able to be with their family on that day, who maybe they're celebrating Christmas alone, because a lot of people are in that situation. That's where I see kind of maybe a benefit in having Christmas Day games, NFL games. I think in a perfect world, everyone's celebrating Christmas with someone and everyone is at home. But we know there are critical workers out there that do stuff on Christmas Day so that society can continue to function. And I certainly appreciate that. But I don't think there's a correlation, because a lot of the criticism is kind of that standard posturing of, well, this is someone who gets paid hundreds of millions of dollars, and there's people in that stadium working minimum wage. This really didn't come across to me as sort of LeBron pissing and moaning about having to be there. He's really just saying, in all honesty, I'd rather be with my family. So I appreciate that. I don't think we will see these games move off of Christmas Day, just because it's an opportunity for these major leagues where a lot of people are around the couch that day. Even if they are spending primarily their time with their family, they may even have the TV on in the background, and that gets them some ratings just by de facto for that. So I'm with you, Alan. I typically will go back and watch highlights from Christmas. I'm usually not heavily involved in watching the games at the moment, other than maybe when things have kind of settled down and everyone's got their toys and whatnot, like maybe some of the later night games when I get back home after visiting with other families. Sometimes I'm down for that, but sometimes I'm also just, I want quiet. At that point, I'm done. Justin, I'd love to know your thoughts on these comments and everything we've been talking about as well.
Yeah, I echo your guys' sentiments. I think from a media perspective, I'm just wondering what the ratings are going to be for these games for ESPN, and they're concerned that the NFL's moving on their territory. So I wonder in the future, could it flip-flop to where the NFL has more games on Christmas and the NBA has one showcase game, just due to the NFL kind of moving on that, and then Netflix trying to invest more in sports. But I feel you. I think I don't know. I think this is generational too. I feel like maybe if I might be wrong on this, it might be an ageist comment on my part, but I feel like younger Gen X millennials seem to be more aware of just the sacrifice and of working on a holiday as before older generations. That's just kind of a given. Like boomers, it's just like you work on a holiday, you just support the family. That's it. No questions asked. Where I think LeBron is recognizing, hey, this is a sacrifice. I do miss being with my family, but also, I recognize, hey, it's honor to play on Christmas is important to the league. So I think you can feel both ways. I don't think that's bad. And also, I think LeBron's kind of reflecting on all those years. His kids are grown, and they might be gone. Like, it's going to be the reverse. LeBron's going to be at home. His kids are going to be gone because they might be playing on Christmas. So, I think he's reflecting on that as well. So, I don't think he should be bashed for those comments. I think that's pretty stupid. I think there's a lot of things to be mad about. I think this is not one of them. So.
Yeah, Justin, I want to respond to the first thing that you said about the NFL. And really, when you're in that power pole position that the NFL is in, I don't think there's any debate or way around it. I mean, if the NFL wants to claim that territory, they're going to walk in and ragdoll the NBA when it comes to ratings. But I also would say I think there is an NBA heavy audience that might prefer basketball over NFL. Now, over your casual sports fans, they're going to tend to prefer the NFL, at least with what the data seems to say. But the NFL is that dominant league, and ultimately, if they want to claim more territory, they're going to do it. I don't know that they have a big incentive to do that right now. Like you said, with everyone also being I think a little bit more present, maybe even compared to Thanksgiving. Like Thanksgiving is like a meal, whereas Christmas a lot of times that's like an all day thing for in a lot of situations. So I don't know that it's as desirable as what they've already taken with Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a good point. I mean, Christmas is, like you said, Matt, like an all day scenario. But look at New Year's. I mean, that's, that has a lot of religious ties to it as well. And look how many football games there are. I mean, that's bowl season right there. So, sports is a part of that. And I think, I kind of lost my train of thought, but, in terms of Christmas and in terms of the league, and now I remember, I think this going into this preview, and you guys can correct me. I think it's a great showcase this year in terms of like the primary stars of the league, right? I think before the league has relied upon Steph and Giannis and LeBron to be kind of the centerpieces. And I feel like even though they might be sprinkled throughout these games, I do feel like the future is here of like, if you're talking to a person that's, hasn't watched the NBA in a couple of years, I think Christmas is a great jumping on point with a lot of these teams because you're seeing the Knicks, with Jalen Brunson, the Spurs, the Thunder. I mean, we could talk about all those players there. The Mavericks is Cooper Flag. And then you get with the Rockets with all those players as well. Lakers with Luka, and then the Timberwolves and Nuggets. I mean, you have Anthony Edwards and the Joker. So I think that's a great jumping on point for people that might not be familiar with the league so much. I think it's a great advertisement for maybe people to jump on towards the second half of the season. You guys have any other thoughts about LeBron's comments?
Well, we'll talk about what you just said as we go, as far as the players we may or may not see on these rosters.
Yeah, good point.
Alan, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. That's I'm excited to move into it. I don't have any other thoughts. I think LeBron is. I mean, Matt, I like what you said. It's the most relatable thing he's said in a long time, and I think a lot of us can relate to that.
Yeah, totally agree. So let's jump into it. And our first game is at 12 p.m. Eastern Time, 9 a.m. Pacific. That is the Cleveland Cavaliers, New York Knicks. I'm going to try to keep my talking to the minimum so we can just kind of breeze through these games here. I'm going to give a little bit of synopsis, and I'll pass it to YouTube to discuss, and I might add a couple of my thoughts. The Cavaliers are 16-14 at the recording of this podcast. They are the 7th seed. The Knicks are 20-8, the 2nd seed. A very disappointing season for the Cavaliers. You guys eloquently put that in the last In the Lab episode. The Ringer did a full preview on this, so shout out to Michael Pena for putting his preview together of Christmas. I thought he did a fantastic job, so I'll be referencing his comments. So the Ringer had this game ranked last in terms of games to watch, which is a bummer for me because I watch the early game usually. I'm the opposite, Matt. I usually watch the early game first, and then I usually fall asleep. during the evening. So I'm out.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Right.
That's a good Christmas.
That's the Goodrum family curse, fall super early. But nevertheless, Michael goes on to say, this game has nothing to do with the Knicks. The Knicks are a bona fide championship contender with a legitimate MVP candidate, a system that is more diversified than it is last year and tons of size and everything to do with Cleveland, why this game sucks. A colossal disappointment that is currently yielding one of the lowest ROIs in league history. The NBA's most expensive team is currently in 8th place sitting, and this is updated. They're 16 and 14, with recent home losses to the Blazers, Hornets, and Bulls twice, which those are bad losses. I will attest to that. And Warriors, who are without Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler, and Draymond Green. So, Matt, I'll pass it to you first. What are your thoughts on this game? You seem to disagree with Michael's comments.
Well, I don't disagree with all of that. I do not think this is the worst game on the schedule, even though it's first. I think there are real Eastern Conference implications here. First question off the bat would be, is Brunson going to play? You would imagine he would try to for a Christmas Day game, but I know he's coming off of that injury. He's been day-to-day this week. He's questionable. So let's see if he suits up for Christmas Day. I was checking into this morning and in researching for these games. So I don't know if status has updated since then, but if Brunson's out, that's a huge deal. And we're not getting a really legitimate test, and makes this game all the more winnable for the Cavaliers. For the Cavs, getting a win over the Knicks can maybe push them into some momentum as we approach, All-Star break, and maybe help them climb up the standings like Alan and I discussed with Danny Cunningham that they're kind of hoping to do in Cleveland here in this next half of the season. So we know that also Mobley is going to be out. Lonzo Ball may be out on the Cleveland side of things, but there's some other injuries like OG Anunoby. Is he going to play for New York? It makes it a little questionable how strong both of these teams are going to be. And I guess I would say if you're going to rank this game very low, it's those question marks about who's actually playing than the matchup itself, which, like I mentioned, has those Eastern Conference implications. I don't know if we're doing predictions or not. I'll give one anyway. I'm going to go with the Cavs. I don't know. I feel like they've got more motivation to get this game than the Knicks do at this point. And I don't know that the Knicks have shown themselves to be a bona fide championship contender at this point. That was one of the other points that I kind of questioned in terms of Pena. And Justin, how high we rank the Knicks. I feel they should be there. I just don't know that I've seen enough proof to say that they're there with confidence.
Yeah, I first of all, I think the Knicks, but I think the most exciting thing about this game is going to be how many times they show Timothée Chalamet on the screen. It's got a big movie coming out, Marty Supreme. Heard good things about it. And we know he's a Knicks super fan. So that's kind of my thinking on that. That's probably the most exciting thing about this game, particularly if there's no Brunson and no Anunoby and no Mobley, and no Lonzo, but I just want to point out something. This is, if everybody plays, this is probably my second lowest game. We'll get to the lowest in a minute. And Matt, you and I might agree on the lowest game. And
I think we do.
And so, if I'm looking at this game and everybody's playing that could play, it could be exciting. I think the Knicks are actually pretty fun to watch. I think Cleveland, though, is just, I saw some stuff. I read some stuff about Darius Garland potentially wanting out to run his own team. Okay, great. Run it into the ground. Mobley still hasn't shown the offensive improvement that we were all promised when he was drafted. That team is just lost. And I always look at this like Jordan Ott leaves and Phoenix is rocking it, playing above expectations. And I always go and I think how much success of Cleveland last year was due to the coaching staff, Jordan Ott, being the lead assistant for Kenny Atkinson. Who knows? I'm not there in the locker room, but it's the thing that I look at. It looks like a little bit of a correlation there. So I think the Knicks will win this one, no matter who plays. So yeah, that's my take on that one.
Great points. Yeah. No, very interesting. A lot of pressure on the Cavaliers, just in terms of they can turn their season around. I think for the Knicks, I mean, it's a tough situation because I think there's league pressure too in terms of ratings, and they've been very strict about, sitting players and fining teams for doing that. So, yeah, I think that's going to be interesting what happens there. If I'm the Knicks, I'm not playing Brunson. I mean, I don't see really the point of doing that and risking further injury when you have a chance here to really make some noise. So we'll see. Moving on, and I think this is the main event of the entire day. The Ringer has this game ranked first, and I agree. It is the San Antonio Spurs versus the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Spurs are 21-7. The Thunder are 26-3. They are the best team in the NBA. This game takes place at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 11:30 a.m. Pacific on ESPN. Michael Pena says this is pretty much everything a Christmas Day should offer. Superstar, duperstar power, potential massive stakes, fascinating matchups, strategic adventures, and the closest thing to a budding rivalry that we have seen under today's CBA. I don't know about that. I mean, with the rivalries, you need like a lot of history, so I don't agree with that. Even if the Nuggets are the biggest threat to take OKC down in the playoff series in the spring, the Spurs are its greatest long-term foil. So just wondering, in this game, does it kind of take anything off that Wembanyama may come off the bench just because he's been hurt and he's been kind of coming off the bench lately? Does that matter in terms of his minutes being restricted, or he's going to play and it's good? That doesn't matter. So Alan, I'll take it to you first. How important is this a game for the Spurs in terms of establishing themselves as a perennial Western Conference power? Because, we've seen Houston really prove themselves. The Nuggets have been there. The Thunder, we know about, their championship pedigree, but the Spurs are new to the party. So is this a critical game for them to establish themselves as not only a threat in the Western Conference, but I would say a title contender as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think with Wemby, they've already done that. I've been watching Spurs games when they're on, and I'm just impressed with the team overall. I think they're well coached. They already beat Oklahoma City in the NBA Cup. For me, this game is maybe more important for OKC to kind of get a little revenge and show that they can beat the Spurs. Wemby off the bench, Wemby starting, it doesn't matter. Wemby's Wemby. He's going to do some amazing things. The OKC is going to press him as much as they can. I mean, SGA versus Wemby. I agree with Michael Pena. This is the game of the day. Certainly the one I'm most excited to pay attention to. Yeah, and I'm going to say right now, I think OKC wins this one.
I'm going to agree with that. I think OKC gets their revenge. Again, my question for this, just based on looking at the injury report this morning, how many OKC Thunder players are going to play? There were like 7 players on that injury report. Granted, most of those were day-to-day. So my guess being that most of those will change over for Christmas Day. I think this isn't quite at the level of rivalry just yet, but it could set the stage for that, with OKC getting their revenge, or maybe with Wemby, flexing some dominance now against this OKC Thunder, seemingly team destined for history this year. If he becomes a foil to that, that would also be a great thing. So it's kind of a nice outcome regardless of which team wins here. Again, I would pick OKC to get the revenge, especially because they'll have the home court advantage. But I would rank this game the second most interesting game as far as what I'm interested in. But I do think it's a very good game, and I'm glad that even though these are small market teams, that they're getting this love on Christmas Day, because they have shown to be elite level teams.
Yeah, and I want to go back. I don't think, Justin, I didn't really answer your question. Sorry.
I want to ask this question, and I'll ask Alan this question since you seem pretty high on his Spurs. Go ahead.
I was just maybe I was going to answer your question before you asked it, Justin. You asked, do the Spurs need to win this game to be legitimate? And I think no. I think they've already shown to be legitimate. I think the Spurs have arrived. Now, doing it in the playoffs will be kind of their test, but right now they're a legitimate contender.
They're only 4.5 games from the Thunder, and a team with OKC that's been picked to win, possibly break the single season record in victories. Is it possible if there's an unlucky break for the Thunder, could the Spurs win the Western Conference? Do you see Wemby, sneaking into being MVP? Is that on the table? Because I see the Kia MVP ladder, and he's not ranked that high. It's between SGA and the Joker. But they're second seed, and if Wemby, plays enough, if he's active, is there a shot that he could, sneak in and win MVP and get that first seed? Is that possible? Or do you think this is basically OKC's year? There's like no shot. That's what I hear. Basically, is OKC's going to run away with the number one seed, and SGA pretty much is between him and the Joker for MVP. But I think with Wemby, just the amazing things that he's doing, I think they got a decent shot. It's not impossible. You take a look at the Nuggets; they're 4.5 games out too, so it's not like they have like a insurmountable lead, in the Western Conference. What do you guys see in terms of kind of the ceiling for the Spurs the second half of the season?
I think interestingly too, maybe even more impressively, is that the Spurs were still a decent team even for that stretch of time that Wemby was out. Yeah. So that gives me a little bit more confidence and hope in how in that this is real, this is legitimate, this is not just an early season thing. I wouldn't give any chance of the Spurs winning the West entirely. But being a top 4 seed seems highly likely now. And I think, Justin, you deserve a tip of the cap on that because you were at the forefront in our season predictions this year. I think you had them the highest of all three of us. I do think there is potential for Wemby to get some MVP love, at least be like top 5 in the voting finish. If the Spurs finish in the top 4 in a loaded Western Conference, it's kind of hard to not consider him at that point, especially if you are one of those types of basketball fans or media members that appreciates both sides of the ball. It's undeniable, his impact.
Yeah, totally agree. Let's move on to the Dallas Mavericks and Golden State Warriors and some drama that has taken place recently with the Golden State Warriors. Just to set the tone here, the Mavericks is 11-19. The Warriors is 15-15. This is ranked 4th on Michael Pena's list of games during Christmas Day. We have Draymond Green get into a heated exchange with Steve Kerr during an early third quarter timeout Monday night in the Golden State Warriors 120-97 win over the Orlando Magic. Green left the bench and basically kind of smoothed things over, saying he needed this to cool off. And before I kind of get your guys' comments, a couple of more things. Cooper Flagg, he's been killing it this season. 18.8 points per game, 7 rebounds, close to 4 assists, top slot on NBA.com's Kia rookie ladder. Michael Pena says, every opportunity to watch Steph Curry play basketball is a gift. It cannot be taken for granted. Unfortunately, the Golden State Warriors are a very sad viewing experience. Ouch. Unable to capitalize on what is quietly somehow Curry's best season in years. There's dysfunction, confusion, inconsistency, and often that really struggles to score when Curry and Jimmy Butler don't share the court. Golden State ranks 3rd in defensive rating, but is also bottom 10 in opposing fast break points. So what is the deal with the Warriors before we get into this game? I just feel, are we getting into the point we need to have some hard conversations here? First with Steve Kerr, again, with just the rest of this roster. And I would say first with Draymond Green. Matt, what do you think is going to happen? Do you see something drastic happening in terms of Draymond being traded? Do you see Steve Kerr being on the hot seat? It's a time to really blow up this team and turn a page and just start over and rebuild. What's going to happen here? What do you think?
Gentlemen, you can go back and look at our Western Conference predictions where I had the Warriors, I think, like 9th in the Western Conference. This is all going according to my master plan. No, I think, the Warriors are getting older. They didn't get younger, adding Jimmy Butler. It doesn't seem like Jimmy Butler is always dominating night in, night out. I've heard a lot of people mention his sort of low usage rate, that he's not really attempting all that many shots per game when he needs to be a very key contributor. He's kind of almost functioned at times like a second Draymond Green, just sort of being a jack of all trades, a very good playmaker at times, but it's not constant. So I don't know. I didn't like this team at the start of the season with all this considered. They're old. I think I don't know that they can do all that much to improve and raise their floor or their ceiling at this point. I think they just kind of are who they are. You mentioned, I mean, if it is true that this is Steph Curry's best season in years, you're getting the ideal scenario for them to win right there. I mean, that's almost more than you could hope for him to have any sort of season, even better than the last season. So for him to have one of the best seasons since their title run and not be able to cash in on it, I think just speaks to how weak this team is, and that it's going to be time to turn the page on this. I don't see Draymond Green. I think the Jordan Poole sort of saga that happened back then, I think that was the moment that if you're going to trade Draymond Green, it probably happens then. So I just don't know that they're going to get much for him if they move him now. I think this team just kind of has to sit in it. You've got the names on paper that are very impressive, and you've got to come together and figure out how to gel a little bit better and maximize what you have. And you guys know my prediction. I don't think they're going to do it.
Yeah, Matt, I agree with you. That was the first thing when Justin asked that question. I thought that ship has sailed. They are in it. This is the team. I mean, maybe they flip Kuminga for something, but it's not going to be anything major because, he's on a qualifying offer. This team is a mess. I mean, the Kuminga saga for the beginning during the off season to the latest Draymond kerfuffle to, Jimmy looking kind of like he's just out there kind of just playing pickup ball. They're not fun to watch. I don't know. I don't think Kerr is in danger, but I don't know that Kerr wants to stick around for a rebuild either. And so correct me if I'm wrong, but his deal is up after this season, right? And they have not negotiated an extension. You could be looking at a coaching change, just not because of how they perform necessarily or an indictment of Steve Kerr, but just he might just be done. And let me just add, I'm loving to see it. This guy's been my nemesis for a decade, so loving to see it.
Well played. And yeah, to your point, I think we see Steve Kerr go before we see Draymond go. It's not that wild of a bet. Coaches are scapegoats way more than players are in this league. And Kerr could certainly be that. I agree with you. I don't get the sense that he's on the hot seat. Steve Kerr's one of those guys who just looks tired all the time, like in interviews and pressers. And I like Steve Kerr. I'm not trying to be insulting or anything, but I wonder if it's kind of mutual that like maybe this locker room isn't really hearing it anymore. And also Kerr is just kind of had it up to here with Draymond and dealing with all the extracurriculars that come along with that. And maybe it's time to just mutually part ways. Usually you want to extend a coach like at some point early in the season, if you're thinking that way, just so that you give them some weight and power behind what they're instructing and leading their team towards. So great job by you, Alan, in bringing that up. That hasn't happened should be pretty concerning. I don't know how you feel about this game, Alan. For me, this is the bottom. game on Christmas Day. I don't find Dallas to be all that compelling of a watch. Like Cooper Flag, that's awesome. You're having a good rookie year. We kind of expected that going in, that it wouldn't be perfect. You'd have to learn. You're doing that. You're doing a good job. It's just not all that pretty to watch. I mean, the prettiest player on this squad, so to speak, is injured, of course, with Kyrie. So my motivation to watch Dallas is pretty low. And then you pair that with the Warriors team that I just mentioned is old as the hills. Steph, yes, he's always a pleasing watch, but there's not enough of that to get me over kind of the rest of the team and sort of the disorder that's going on right now. So this is the bottom of the list for me. Yes, even below Cleveland and New York. New York, you're getting Madison Square Garden at the least. You're getting Chalamet, as Alan pointed out. So you got some stuff there. You got the Chalamet bump.
Right? Yeah, I have this as my least looking forward to watch. Unless my prediction here, and my prediction is Dallas wins and Cooper goes for 50. That makes it exciting. Also, Draymond gets tossed in the first quarter. So there's some predictions.
All right. Well, you just flipped me because I'm definitely tuning in. If you could guarantee me all those things will happen, I will watch, no doubt.
This is the nap game. It takes place at 3 p.m. Mountain Time, 5 p.m. Eastern. Like if you eat dinner early, like this is where you're taking a nap, you're out, or it's where you're preparing for dinner, trying to get everything organized. You don't have time to watch this game. But either way, it's just kind of a game to skip. So let's move on and let's talk about a game that I think you guys are very interested in, and that is the Houston Rockets versus Los Angeles Lakers. This takes place prime time, 8 p.m. Eastern time, 5 p.m. Pacific. All the games are on ESPN. The Rockets are 17-9, the 6th seed. The Lakers are 19-8, the 4th seed. Michael Pena says, unlike the 4 games on this list, these two could realistically meet in the second round of the playoffs. Pena has this game ranked 3rd on his list. It is a fascinating matchup with at least 4 probable All-Stars, Luka Doncic, Austin Reeves, Alperen Sengun, and Kevin Durant, and several icons, including the league's all-time leading scorer. LeBron and Durant have combined to 791 points on Christmas Day. So what do you guys think of this game? The Rockets are the 6th seed, and I thought they would be a little bit higher in terms of the standings so far. So both of you guys are Rockets fans paying attention to this season. I would say this is a season in a long time where expectations are high for the Rockets, but yet they're the 6th seed. Are you guys disappointed? I don't know, either one of you can go first in terms of their season so far. And how important is this a game in terms of gaining momentum towards MLK Day and then towards the All-Star break? Alan, I'll pass it to you first.
Yeah, honestly, they're where I thought they would be. And I think if you go back to the season preview, this is kind of in the area that I thought they'd be in this 4 to 6 range. And it's just, I think they miss Fred VanVleet's decision-making and playmaking at the end of games. We saw it last year. Every time another team went on a run, Fred was there to kind of hit a couple of shots, hit a big 3, calm things down. And they just don't have that yet. So I think there's growth. We've seen improvement from Amen on playmaking. We've seen Reed have some good games. And that's another prediction I have. I think Reed's going to have a pretty big game on Christmas Day against the Lakers. I think their porous defense will help him have a pretty good game. At least their point of attack is not as strenuous as you would get from like a Denver or a OKC. So I think he's got an opportunity to really shine. I'm not disappointed. They're where they should be, I think. They've got to grow. They've got to figure out who does what in crunch time. But they're where they should be, and I'm pretty happy with the season so far.
I'd echo that. Reed Shepherd looks pretty legit. That jump shot is so pretty, and he's finding his place more and more, finding his confidence. So that's really, I think he is exceeding expectations from what was placed on him at the start of the year, really once we had the Fred VanVleet injury news. I think you're absolutely right, Alan. I mean, they need some more time to figure out what they're doing in crunch time to get used to that. And that's really, I think, a lot of on-the-job training in these games with throwing KD into the mix. Like, is Şengün going or is KD going? How do we negotiate that? They're still figuring that out. You can see it still looks kind of awkward in a lot of those situations. But I think they have plenty of time. I'm not concerned at all. And if you look at the games behind, the Rockets are really not behind at all. I will say, I think the Lakers are still a fool's gold type of team. They're not as fool's gold as last year since they have Luka Doncic on the roster, but they are still a fool's gold team. I don't think they're as good as their seed. I expect the Rockets to win this game, especially with Luka coming off injury. How strong is he going to be? Is Austin Reeves playing? I'm just not sure. Is Rui playing? Those are pretty major contributors to this team, no doubt. I mean, Luka and Reeves being the two best players on this team at the moment. I think Houston should win this game. I'd be a little bit disappointed if they lost it, but you're also playing against Luka Legend if he's playing, so he knows how to do things in crunch time, and right now that's the Rockets' weakness. Should be a good game. I have this third on my list of games as well, and again, I have Houston winning this one. Could be pretty close. I think could be a good game. If Houston's defense shows up, maybe over early. That could be another option too. And again, especially depending on Luka's health and how ready he is to go.
Last on the slate of games in my neck of the woods is the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Denver Nuggets, taking place 10:30 p.m. Eastern, 7:30 p.m. Pacific. The Nuggets right now are 21-7. The Timberwolves are 19-10. The Ringer has this game ranked second. Pena says, I initially slotted this game third, but was quickly swayed by the medal Minnesota showed in a huge win against OKC on Friday night. Just a reminder how sharp the Timberwolves' bite can be in a game with stakes. Just their luck, the Nuggets are good enough to provide some. This is Nikola Jokic and Anthony Edwards, arguably two of the most entertaining players in the league, on opposing teams that share history and hard feelings. This is where competitive juices will flow, zone defense will be deployed, and there's a chance that this showdown will ultimately preview a postseason rubber match. So, what do you think about the Timberwolves? I'm kind of thinking they're the new age Clippers. I just got Clipper vibes about this team overall. Like, I just feel
hurt, and I'm not a T-Wolves fan.
I just feel like all of a sudden, the Clippers are done. They're going to be in scandal, and they're going to fade away into oblivion. And the Timberwolves are going to take their place in terms of every year. Hearing this team going to go to the NBA Finals win, in actuality, they're going to be a huge disappointment. What do you guys think of this game? I do like the rivalry. I do like the bad blood. I think it will be very entertaining. But nevertheless, in terms of the Timberwolves' chances, I just don't believe in Anthony Edwards. I don't believe in this team at all. But what do you guys think, Matt? I'll let you take it first. Are you excited about this match? Will you be staying up to check kind of the nightcap?
Yeah, if I tune in, the Rockets Lakers, I might catch a little bit of that. This one is my number one game for Christmas Day. I think this is one of the closer matchups to a rivalry. It's weird to say that because you think about rivalries of the past, and this doesn't feel quite on that level, but this is rivalry in the sense that these teams have crossed paths a lot in the playoffs over the last few years. So I like that. I like this Anthony Edwards versus Jokic kind of thing. Can the Timberwolves, start to course correct with their season? And this is also a preview of if we get a solid first round matchup in the playoffs, in the Western Conference, this could certainly be it, depending on how that seeding lands. So getting a preview of that would be kind of nice. And again, Anthony Edwards, pleasure to watch. Jokic, maybe my favorite player of all time. So I really dig the matchup. I do think Minnesota gets the win here. I think Denver's hurting a bit with Aaron Gordon out, with Christian Brown. Even though Jamal Murray has been playing very well this season and may get his first All-Star selection, which feels weird to say, but yeah, it's true. I think Minnesota may have a little bit more if McDaniels is able to play, may have a little bit more firepower, and may just outpace the Nuggets here. So I'm excited to see what happens, and if this is a preview of potentially a 6 or 7 game series in the first round of the West.
Yeah, I have this as my number 2, mainly because of the rivalry, and it's going to get chippy. I think the Wolves made a couple of little adjustments finally, right? Conley kind of getting a little more usage, despite advanced age. And we know that there's going to be some sort of crazy Chris Finch move somewhere in this game. He's going to do something interesting that'll be kind of fun to watch. I do think Minnesota is probably headed towards the route of Clipperdom. So Justin, that's a great thing to point out, because I think they'll be kind of that team that, because of Anthony Edwards' name, people will think will go far. Yeah. When I think about this game, I think like both of these teams have big wins over each other in playoffs and in regular season. So that makes it a pretty interesting rivalry. But I mean, right now, Denver is clearly a step above, a tier or 2 tiers above. And I think Denver wins this one. But it should be a fun game to watch, I think. I mean, just anytime you got Jokic playing, it's a fun game to watch. So I'm glad he's getting a Christmas, late night Christmas game this year, so that people who are taking that quiet moment to themselves after everyone's crashed out can have a chance to watch Nikola Jokic play. So I think it's cool. So I'm looking forward to this one. It'll be the one I watch him back, probably on mute as I fight sleep.
Justin, you're up in Denver area. How do you see this one playing out, and how do you rank it in terms of what you're looking forward to watching on Christmas Day?
Yeah, I like this game. Like you guys were saying, they got a lot of bad blood with each other, and I think they'll bring their best just because of their animosity. I like this matchup. I just love Jokic. I think he's just fantastic. I mean, we've talked about him all the time. But this is really a premier game for Anthony Edwards. I mean, he says he wants to be the man in this league. I mean, you talk about Cooper Flag scoring 50. What about Ant? Like, this is a game where he wants to be the man. I mean, this is a perfect showcase game to put your stamp on your kind of early legacy. So that's what I'm looking forward to. In terms of like the number 1 game, I think it's earlier, the Spurs and the Thunder. I think that's my number 1, but this is probably my number 2. These are the 2 games that I'll probably be following the most. And I'll probably watch the first game just because it's early. Just before talking with family, I'll have it on in the background. So,
Justin, I can't help but think, Jokic staring down Anthony Edwards and giving him the Ric Flair. You want to be the man? You got to beat the man. Woo!
Honestly, he has that kind of personality. I saw him at media day. I mean, that would not surprise me. So we'll see. Appreciate you guys spending this Christmas Eve with me to preview the slate of Christmas Day games. Anything else you guys wanted to say before we say goodbye?
Man, well, first off, Merry Christmas to you guys. And this is probably, at least in terms of releasing schedule, the last time we will talk before New Year's. We've got some other stuff we'll be recording, but the listeners won't hear that. So just want to make sure, wish you both a Merry Christmas and a very Happy New Year as we head into that. It's just been a blast. Been grateful for 2025, looking forward to 2026, and a lot more great interviews and conversations with you both and the guests that we're fortunate to have on the show. So thanks, you guys. So appreciate you both.
Yeah, right back at you, Matt and Justin. Thank you. It's been great to be part of this. I mean, happy holidays, happy Hanukkah. It's over. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year to it's been I think my first year here, so it's been really cool. So thanks for bringing me along and glad to be part of the team. So so best wishes to you and all your family, and we'll be ready to pick this up in do some more fun, good stuff. I really appreciate the fact that we, and I'm going to ramble here, not too long, but I really appreciate the fact that we talk to such unique individuals within the basketball landscape. From PA announcers to the people who have invented devices to help the visually impaired be able to follow along a game. There's some just really, really cool things that we talk to. It's not just us, ranting and, doing a crossfire edition of basketball talk. I mean, I like the educational, the informational. I love learning new stuff. So it's been just super great. So thanks to both of you, and thank you to all our listeners.
Yeah, likewise. I echo your both sentiments. Happy holidays to both of you. I hope you guys have a safe and happy new year. I appreciate, Matt, just the effort you put into this podcast always, and just like, hanging in there and just going on this journey since we started during the pandemic. And Alan, just you jumping on and just being open to any guests that we have and just being an awesome contributor. And your knowledge, it's been awesome to have you both on this ride. And a shout out to our new subscribers as well. This has been our best year by far in terms of new listeners, new subscribers, both the audio and especially on YouTube. So thank you very much. And again, like I said earlier, please like and subscribe for more content. If you have any questions, we do check out the comments. We do check out emails, hoopsologypod@gmail.com. And we are active on probably Twitter the most, but also LinkedIn as well, and somewhat on Facebook and a little bit on Instagram. But we are available on there. But it's definitely Spotify is where you can check out the video version of our podcast along with the audio version, and on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, sorry. Updated name, Apple Podcasts. Check us out on there. So for myself, Justin Goodrum, you've been listening to Matt Thomas and Alan Muenzler on In the Lab on the Hoopsology podcast. Have a safe and happy new year. Enjoy the games, not only basketball, but also a shout out to the New Mexico Lobo football team. Huge bowl game. Usually the football team sucks, but Jason Eck has been awesome turning that team around. So shout out to him. That is it. Happy New Year. We will see you next time. See ya.
And that should do it for us today. On behalf of Matt, Justin, and Alan, this is Tim Kittrow saying we'll see you next time. Kaboom!